All right. So, what has been happening for me over the last few days, which has been so enlightening and so empowering that I just am really excited to share it with you because I really do believe that these lessons that I learn are definitely not for me, but they're for me and for me to share. So, I'm sure that you'll be able to relate. So, what I'm going to talk about today is pride. And so my pride lesson started on the weekend. I was walking down the beach and Jacinta tagged me in to join in Elizabeth Peru's live Facebook video. And she talked about the Mercury retrograde. And what I took from it was now is the time to realise your truth over the next 7 days. And so I was open to realising a new truth because obviously this is an ongoing process. You don't just realise your truth once, it just continues to happen. And depending on where you're at in your awakening, there are going to be truths that come to light in a way that you can intellectually understand. But then when you're really going to integrate it so that it has an impact on your life and you change as a result of it, that will also come to you as well, which is what's happened to me. So when I realised that, I tuned, like I often do, into a podcast. And the message for me on that podcast was to feel the unconditional love of life pulse through you, but to understand that you didn't merit it. You received it because life loved you, loves you. And this really hit me because often when we set goals and we achieve things, we can feel very proud of ourselves. And, you know, that's an understandable reaction to have because we've worked for it. But this was just another level of understanding for me because when good shows up in my life, it's not me, it's that power greater than me. And it's because I've actually surrendered to that power and let that life force, that pure love flow through me and bring to me the thing that I desire. And life knows what you want. So life will bring you what you want when you let go of the control. So pride is about you being in charge and you controlling it. Now, it doesn't mean stopping the action because you absolutely have to show up in the world and take action. You have to interrelate with other people. All success, all of the things that you desire come to you through your interaction with other people. But when you allow life, pure love to flow through you in that interaction and you let go of the details of how things are going to show up, then it shows up in a way that's outside of your imagination. So this message was going to come to me repetitively so that I realised that this message was for me. So then that night on the same day, this was Sunday, I went along to a church service and this was only my second time going to this church. I went there the first time on Easter Sunday. I, out of the blue, messaged a friend of mine and said, are you going to go to church over Easter? And she said, yes, we think we might try out this new place down at Glenelg. Would you like to come? And so they'd never been and I'd never been. And it was a beautiful environment because the music that they played really moved me. So I was in tears, you know, during the singing and, you know, I really felt love and life force go through me. And so I was drawn to go there again. So I thought I was there to feel the love in the music, but I was also there because the person who was teaching was talking about the book of Isaiah, and he was talking about pride, and he was talking about all the ways pride shows up. And interestingly, one of the ways pride shows up is when you are easily offended or sensitive to criticism. Now, we've talked about this before, that this is really common for a people pleaser. And the reason that we're so sensitive to criticism is because our self-value is attached to if we are showing up as being assessed by others as being good enough. If we knew that we were good enough, no matter what anybody else thought of us, we would not be sensitive to somebody pointing out that perhaps we could improve in a certain way. And so this really jumped out at me, this particular aspect of pride. So what I want you to be able to take away from this is that when we catch ourselves being really sensitive to what other people say, and we also notice that we really want to be in control of making life turn out the way we want it to turn out, that if we surrender to this life force that loves us and is for us, life knows what we want. And so we show up and we take the action, but we take the action because we're here in the world to be a shining light, and we're here in the world to do the best that we can, but we're not doing it because we're attached to the outcome that's going to show up. Because that's where we're always going to be frustrated and we're always going to feel like we're trying. But if you can let go of that and just show up, be love, be yourself, do what feels good, and always make your choices based on following grace. And when you're following grace, you will feel this sense of calm. You will just know that everything's going to be okay. So when you catch yourself worrying about the future or resenting something in the past, this is when you take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and just allow yourself to really have that faith. And this really ties into Jacinta's success that we talked about 2 weeks ago, because she had complete faith and she didn't know how she was going to do it. But she just kept bringing herself back to having the faith. And Angela had the same success, and that was the same thing. So every time they started to panic and think, this is impossible, how will I possibly do this? They came back to allowing life to flow through them, and for the success to show up in unimaginable ways, rather than us knowing exactly how it's going to turn out. So what I would love you to do is just to notice when pride is creeping into your life, not for an opportunity to judge yourself, but for an opportunity to choose again and to choose grace instead, and to allow this powerful love force to flow through you so that you can just show up with love, without attachment to the day-to-day outcomes, knowing that the big picture can show up in a way that will just exceed anything that you could possibly imagine.